One of my favourite things about Eddsworld is the diversity of its animation styles. While there are some things that will never change, animators have historically been given free rein to make these episodes look beautiful in entirely unique ways. I love every single Eddsworld art style, but I love some more than others, so I made a tier list. This sort of thing has been done before, but I think I've got a pretty decent selection of all the ways Eddsworld has looked over the years. My tier list is going to be completely objective. No other opinion is valid, but I do have a link to this tier list in the description and you are allowed to share your opinions in the comments below, even if my opinion is the only correct one. So right off the bat, we have a definition problem. What counts as an art style? More specifically, what do we do with Edd's animations? That man was always improving and experimenting. Every video of his could be a new animation style, or we could lump them all in together. I've decided to split it into two eras, starting with everything from like the early Christmas specials up until maybe Santa Claus 1 when Matt still had his black hoodie. Basically all the really early rough stuff. And I can't, in good faith, put this any higher than D tier. I know a lot of people like this art style, so do I don't dislike any Eddsworld art style, but there's a reason Edd stopped animating like this.
Edd was a very bad animator, in my opinion.
And it started with just the most rubbish doodles in sketchbooks, and then the most rubbish stick animations.
When it's a bit shit, it's like it used to be.
I don't need to tell you why this is rough. Designs, expressions, movement, they're just not quite there yet. I will say that with early Eddsworld, more than any other era, I think, I can see the hours and days that Edd put into animating these videos. This is clearly someone who likes animating, who wants to make something, who's good, but clearly not at their apex just yet. I can feel the love that went into these things, so I can't judge them too harshly, I just can't grade it very well. Unlike Edd's later work. I'm using hammer and fail to represent what Edd was able to do at the peak of his animation career, and I just have to put it in S tier. This is basically the standard by which everything else has been compared, and I'm not putting it here just because it's Edd's style and therefore it's sacred or whatever. No, there's some genuinely impressive animation to be found in the golden era. Look at some of these designs, the scales, the camera movements, the comedic timing of it all. It's colourful, it's charming, it's nostalgic, and its influence can be felt across every other video. I think that Edd's style well deserves S tier, and I don't think anyone disagrees with me. Just to cover my bases, I'm putting Edd and Edd again in D tier. Again, very charming. I can see a 14-year-old Edd at his computer pouring his time and love into these things, but it gets better, right? Edd would eventually do a lot better. On that note, money, that's what I want. This was an experimental video for Edd. There are no outlines on anything really, setting it apart from every single other video. But it's still recognisably Eddsworld, it's still recognisably Edd's style. And I'm gonna put it in B tier. I don't know what the most underrated classic episode would be, but I don't think we talk enough about how pretty this animation looks. I also like experimentation. I like it when the show does something different stylistically speaking, and Money That's What I Want does just that. I am so glad this music video exists. It's a lovely peek into Edd trying something a little different.
Money, which is heavily stylized, and I love. That was Edd just trying something different.
The first animator to take over from Edd was Paul Tavorda, famously the style that most people think of when they imagine Eddsworld legacy, and rightly so. By the time the end came along, Paul had done more episodes than anyone except Edd, and he animated some of the most popular and recognizable episodes to date. I've said before that I don't care for it much, and while I still think this is my least favourite Eddsworld Legacy art style, I am glad they went with Paul as their primary animator. Eddie once described Paul as an animation god wizard maniac, and I don't disagree. Technically speaking, these episodes are absolutely flawless. Paul also had pre-existing links to the show, and I'm not just talking about the recurring character he voiced. One of my favourite early animation details is in Zombie Attack 3. Matt is stood there with his army of zombies, and look, it's basically one of the zombies from Fun Dead in a classic Eddsworld animation from 2007. More specifically, it's a zombified character from Paul's old Newgrounds series Bored Kids. I like Paul's signature style. It might not be entirely my thing, but it's a solid C tier. However, Paul didn't just animate in his signature style. Space Face Part 1 in Eddsworld has always been a strange case to me. As far as I understand it, the burden of animation was shared between Edd Gould, who mostly did the first half of Part 1, and Paul Tavorda, who was largely responsible for the second half of Part 1 and basically all of Part 2. That bit where the light goes out above Ed and an alien with Paul's eyebrow walks across the screen, that's there to symbolize the passing of the torch, and honestly, Paul did such a great job emulating Ed's style that if it weren't there, I might not have even known where the transition was. I'm gonna put this at the top of B tier. As much as I have a real soft spot for the look of the end Part 1 and the Snoga, if every legacy animation looked like this, that would have been fine by me. Of course, not every episode was animated by Paul. 2012 to 2016 was the Wild West of art styles. After a run of 4 Paul Tavorda videos, we got Tom's Tales of Crazy, animated by Jesse Zhang. This one kind of emulates an unfinished animatic, just like the rest of Tom's Tales, and while it's obviously simplistic, I think this is really cute. They managed to make something quite beautiful in black and white, a fairly difficult task that Jesse makes look easy. I like all the proportions here, I like the expressions. I wasn't expecting this when I started out, but I think I'm also going to put Tom's Tales of Crazy in B tier. Next up we've got Hide and Seek, animated by Katie Knit. I adore the way this episode looks. Everything is a little wonky, Tom's hair especially looks like a work of modernist art, but also look at the house, look at the trees, look at the way everything is moving. The lines probably jitter here more than in any other episode. That's called a line boil, by the way. I learned that specifically for this video. The colours here are also tied for my favourite of any episode. That campfire scene especially is a work of art. S tier. Now we're on to Power Red, the first Eddsworld video I saw, and I like this one. If you like Paul's style, you'll probably like this. It's very similar, but a little bit bouncier, which is quite nice. That first scene with Ed up on the roof is a beautiful sequence, and I can't fault it one bit. Actually, all the nighttime scenes are great, especially with that lovely color palette. I think I'm gonna put this one in high C tier. I do like it a little bit more than Paul's style, and maybe on a different day I'd put this episode a lot higher, but there's a lot of intense competition. Mirror Mirror by Sandra Rivers. I really like this one as well. The characters are probably lankier than they've ever been, and the colours might be a little more muted than we're used to. It's very calming to look at. And is it just me, or do their hoodies look especially comfy for some reason? Special mention goes to these shots where the backgrounds go minimalist and sometimes all the colours switch up. There might be a name for this trick, it isn't uncommon for Eddsworld, but it's done a few times in Mirror Mirror to fantastic effect. Easy A tier. After Mirror Mirror, we got a double bill of holiday specials from Brandon Turner. This is basically the exact opposite of Sandra Rivers. The colours are bright, the characters are squat, the camera is way in on most shots, giving us a look at the bold, messy line work, and it is so much fun. I'm putting this in A tier as well. This kind of weirdness and willingness to try new things is why I love the Legacy so much. It might look nothing like Eddsworld to you, I get the sense that this won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I've loved this look since the moment I laid eyes on it. And then we have Salunatics. This was originally going to be animated by Anthony Creed Price, animator of Power Red. You can still find the animatic up on YouTube. When he got busy on another project though, Salunatics was passed onto Studio Cacti, with Jesse Zhang from Tom's Tales of Crazy fame returning to lead the storyboards, colouring and art direction. The result is my favourite looking Eddsworld video of all time. I've already gushed about the colours and the lighting, the warmth that exudes from every scene. The lines are scraggly and hand-drawn, the character designs are adorable, it's all perfect. But the thing that separates Salunatics from everything else we're talking about today, the thing that lets it stand head and shoulders above the rest. The characters have noses! The final Eddsworld Legacy video is The End Part 2. While The End Part 1 was mostly Paul's work with a little help on the flashback scene, Part 2 was animated by like 10 different people. Brandon Turner came back for some scenes, as did Katie Knit and Anthony Price. Tom Scar mainstays like Ben Smallman and Matt Lay contributed a little bit, future Beyond animator Billy Crinian got involved, and that's not even all of them. Ed went on record saying that if he had to end the show, he'd call in as many favours as possible to make it a massive collaborative effort with loads of people animating a little bit of the finale. And they did just that. Paul's art direction is the real star of the show here, imitating Edd's style wonderfully and storyboarding some pretty impressive shots. I like some moments more than others. I was never a fan of this scene in the supermarket, for instance, but I appreciate that everyone was able to bring a little bit of themselves to the episode. The End Part 2 gets a well-deserved A tier. A lovely send-off that pays tribute to Edd and everyone who made the legacy a reality. 4 years later, we got Fan Service 2, with animation led by Jackie Lopez kicking off Eddsworld Beyond. And just like that, we've got another definition problem on our hands. Most legacy videos credit one animator. Sometimes there'll be a separate background artist, or in the case of Saloontics in the End Part 2, there's an entire team. But usually there's just one vision being brought to life. With Beyond, that's not the case at all. Some episodes credit Jackie as the lead animator. Pinheads is the first video to credit Penny Bogart as the lead animator, though she and Jackie both had a lot of help in that regard. The trilogy of Household shorts, meanwhile, were animated by Billy Crinian alone, with no other animators credited. And then you've got something like New Year, New You, which was animated by 6 artists with no clear top billing in the credits. I look at all of these videos and I can tell the difference between an episode animated by Penny and an episode animated by Jackie, but these episodes are mostly similar. They're all working with the same style guide for the most part, and after asking you people on Twitter, I've decided to treat Eddsworld Beyond like the End Part 2. A lot of talented people bringing their own spin to a single unified vision. For the most part, we'll get there. You can clearly see that Edd's style was the primary inspiration for Beyond. I'm quoting Matt directly when I say that they didn't want it to look too good. Edd's style was a bit messy and a bit imperfect, and these videos take that messiness, they embrace it, and they still manage to do shots that are more technically impressive than anything in the classic era. And yes, you can see a bit of the animator's proverbial thumbprint, which I think is for the better. There's a specific face that Jackie would draw, and I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I know who animated this bit. That kind of DNA can be felt across Beyond, and I don't think I could be happier with it. I'm putting the whole of Eddsworld Beyond at the top of A tier. Now, we've also seen some legacy style experimentation over the years. The Chronicles of Santa has no lead animator, the Santa portraits alone have 7 credited artists, but about half the video is animated in this crude storybook style. I think this is so cool. The colouring has no respect for the outlines, the details like body hair and fire and clothing are wonderfully abstracted. It all feels like an old school children's cartoon, except everybody is burning alive. This kind of weirdness is usually reserved for the comics, so to see it in motion like this is a treat for the eyes. While I get that one unifying identity is important and I love the way Beyond looks normally, I will welcome experimentation like this any day of the week. B tier. And that brings us to Tales of Terror. This is the first video with Kaz as the lead animator. It's different to every other episode in that comedy takes a backseat to horror, and appropriately enough, it looks different to every other Beyond video. It's subtle, but care was taken to give each short a unique colour palette. And the moment I saw the teaser images, I could immediately tell something was different. Maybe I just have a crush on this episode, but this is everything I love about the Beyond style with a little extra spice. The lighting and purple tint across Matt's story is gorgeous. The camera angles and shadows in Tom's segment are lovely, and Edd's section works with the familiar and slowly perverts it into something uncanny. It's all very clever. If S tier is reserved for styles that both delight and surprise, Tales of Terror deserves its spot. It steps outside the norm to create an episode that's outside the norm. It's spooky, it's different, and it's beautiful. And that's all I have to say. Looking at this tier list now, I worry that it might come across like a WatchMojo top 10 list, arbitrarily pitting artists against one another and giving numerical scores to art. Like, oh, this cartoon is good, but it's not quite good enough to be categorized with these better cartoons. Honestly, on any given day, this ranking could look wildly different. I'll always have art that's particularly special to me and stuff that doesn't quite click, but by the time I've edited this video, I'm sure I'll already be regretting some of these rankings. I want to stress that the specific tiers are irrelevant. Think of this video as a celebration of individualism. A dozen artists took a crack at the same idea and walked away with more than a dozen different interpretations. The phrase, "there's nothing new under the sun," is ancient, literally biblical. But as long as new artists are being born, there'll always be a new perspective on the familiar, and with 4 births per second per day, I'll bet that yet another great artist was born today. Oh, hang on, I forgot doing. B.